I'm Jeannie Kelly, and I wanted to make you aware about identity theft, identity protection. So I brought along with me Christine Manning and Christopher McGlynn. Let's dive in and just have conversation about it. Let's talk about things we've seen and what people can do, because being aware, I think, is the key. Christopher, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Chris, and I was a forensic accountant for the government for a number of years, and I did have some exposure to identity theft and how it can impact people's lives and how prevalent it is in today's world.
Christine?
Well, I used to be a licensed private investigator with the insurance fund, so I have a very different viewpoint of identity theft and the things that I saw. I just don't think people have any idea of how pervasive it is. So it's a great conversation to start with. I know you have an area of expertise in credit. I don't know how necessarily it affects credit, but I know from the legal standpoint or the insurance standpoint what happens. But what happens in credit world?
Yeah. And again, I'm a credit expert. I live and breathe the credit industry. I love it. And the thing when it comes to identity theft and your credit report is you're guilty. And then you have to prove your innocence. And that what I mean by that is something goes on your credit report and you have to work so hard to say, this isn't me. This isn't me. But they have the people who did this, they're good at it. So they had your address, date of birth, social security number, whatever it was to get that item on your credit report. And that's the sad thing. You know, you could be walking around thinking that your credit's beautiful, but it could be compromised. And that's why I'm always talking healthy credit, but we just have to be aware what to look out for and things that have happened.
No, I agree. I think one of the things that I found most shocking when I was doing my work was how many people stole their deceased relatives' identifiers. And it's just not something you think about, but you should, upon somebody's death, send a certified letter with a certified copy of the death certificate to IRS, Social Security. You should also send it to DMV because that's the first place identity thieves go to. And all digital media should be shut down. But people think it is bittersweet. They keep their social media pages open because they miss the person. But all through that page is all sorts of information. Your mother's maiden name. Those are usually used as your bank, right? You get on the phone with your bank and they ask you what your mother's maiden name is. So, I mean, there's all sorts of extra information given out on obituaries and in death certificates. There's the background of the person, and then they have the social media page to boot. Now they know there's an empty social media page. And so what an easy hack to create an entire parallel universe on, right? So I was shocked at that. But of course, like you said, criminals already understand what they're going to do. They're just looking for access.
I'm sure. And the access is fairly easy. The data breaches you read about so often in the news today, that information can be sold on the dark web. I think I saw an article from January 2021. It's a little dated now, but fulls, which are full identities of United States citizens, were selling for about $8 each. And those can be used to apply for credit. They can be used to do a whole host of things, file bad tax returns. So the information can be sold, and it's very difficult to figure out who's doing it. I think in terms of what people can do to protect themselves, if they keep an eye on their credit card statements and bank statements, looking for charges that they may not be familiar with, and just following up with their credit, or their financial institutions, I should say.
Yeah. And that's so scary to think that for $8, someone can take my identity. So like what I'm saying to everyone today is, what is your name worth? What do you think your name is worth? I think it's worth a lot. So we want to make sure you are aware that there is a protection service, and you can message any of us for that information, because that's what we want to see. Just like you said, Chris, that our information can be sold. So why not have a company that is going to be looking on the dark web? I don't know how to search that to see, is my driver's license number being sold? Is my email address being sold? So I want to have someone who does that for me. And what I also love about the ID protection we're always talking about is that if your something has happened to you with your identity, that they will do the work to restore your identity to where it should be. And that, to me, my friends, is priceless. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more, because most people have no idea it's occurred. And there are instances that I investigated where it was a 7-year-old project. So by the time you get to it, you're trying to unravel 7 years worth of another person's life when they were being you. And I always say, how do you prove that's not you when they've been you for 7 years? I mean, time is on their side. And it's horrible to think of where your reputation, your character, your good name landed in those 7 years, right? It is the only thing we're born with and the only thing we're dying with. So it is really important to keep it safe, private, and to yourself.
Well, I think time can also work on the side of the identity thieves in terms of like a credit card bust out scheme. So they'll open a credit card using someone's identifiers. They'll make small purchases, pay those purchases, and then increase the line of credit, ultimately walking away from the debt. And at that point, the person would realize they had a problem.
Right. Oh my goodness.
That's horrifying because, Mr. McGlynn, I never ran across something like that. That wasn't my area of expertise. But to hear it in that way, that makes so much sense. That, of course, they're going to live in that moment and use the good credit and expand it and pay on time. That's a little, that's extra level scary.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the worst things when I was dealing with someone, the worst case I feel like, is this woman, her driver's license and her medical insurance card was compromised. So a lot of times people come to me saying, well, if I have bad credit, I'm not going to worry about my identity being compromised. Well, we're protecting a lot more than just your credit. So those two items that the person took, and they were pretending to be her to get medical treatment in her name. So they were having procedures done, and this person had so much medical collections, and even a knock at her door. She said it was a birthday party, and someone knocked at her door to serve her judgment papers, where she was like, what are you talking about? This was not me. But they had her really important ID information, her driver's license. And, with that Equifax data breach, in 2017, part of some of the information that was taken was your driver's license number. So, this woman, it took her over 3 years. She was still working, trying to restore her identity over 3 years, hundreds of hours, and she still couldn't do it. So that's why I say it's not something to not think about, especially nowadays where online, like you said, Christine, so much, you can click a button by mistake. And then all of a sudden you're somewhere where you shouldn't have been, and all your information can be compromised that simply. And we're technology, come on, like we're not on it constantly. So we have to have protection.
And I think one of the things you mentioned about your case was that is very scary. Isn't medical debt the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States? And I guess if you don't get a handle on that right away, it could cause larger financial problems for you.
Yeah.
Well, my goodness. I mean, I have terrified myself now into further, right? But we're very aware of it. But even every single time I hear a new story, you think to yourself, my goodness, the criminals are so good at this. They already understand how they're going to monetize your good name. So they're just waiting for that sloppy access. And we don't understand what sloppy access is because we're so used to living free, right? And so we're so used to living on social media platforms and, giving out. How many times have you given out your driver's license to rent a car, to rent a hotel room? How many times? How many people did your driver's license pass through? When you go to a hotel in the middle of Wisconsin through a snowstorm because you're waiting and they take a photocopy of your driver's license right overnight. Do they shred that in the morning? Have you seen them shred that? I heard a great saying that said, your identity is only as safe as the last ethical person it passed through. Ooh. And I thought, oh goodness. I mean, it's right there.
Right. I think too, like even as safe as you want to be, people who do this for a living know they're going to target accountants' offices, payroll companies, medical practices, where they can get large volumes of identities. And, it's great to be cautious yourself, but it doesn't eliminate all the risk.
Right.
Well, can I tell you the worst story I ever heard is, Mr. McGlynn, you told me a story about an employer.
Yes, they had been using the identities of the information they had gotten from their employees to apply for loans.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Just when you think you're safe at work.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just to bring awareness, right? And we never want to just talk about these things without giving the solution. And the solution is we've given out our information. We know we have. So why not have protection? And that's it. Just sign up. I'm not going to say that this protection means it won't happen to you. That's impossible to say. But if it happens to you, why not have a team of experts help you restore your identity to where it should be? You know, be the CEO of your identity.
Oh, well, I love that.
Yes, yes, definitely.
I'm the boss of
Awesome.
me. Excellent. Thank you for, that's such a good idea. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think this has been a great chat. Thank you for joining. And again, get a hold of one of us and we will be happy to share the information with you. And any more questions, please keep them coming.
Yeah, we should meet once a week.
Yes, we should.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye, everybody.